FoodTube. Yeah, I'm uploading part 2 right now. Part 1 just got uploaded. I just have to, make a few adjustments and get it out there, but part 2 is uploading. I'm still mad that under 4 minutes I managed to curse like 3 times in a row, and it's like stick a dummy or blah, 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 blah. Cut off the thumb. Or like so, that typical, thing you see in the olden times when you actually curse, they make you eat like a bar of soap or something. That moment. But like, let's get it started. This is around the half that I actually saw. I saw a glimpse of this right before I went to commercial. But let's get started. Anyway, Nick and Luciana, they're at that supermarket and stuff, and they only got 1 cart because the leader's a jerk. And fine. You only give us 1 cart for the medication? Fine. We fill up like heck. And like I said in the previous video, Nick tried to put a candy bar in there, and Luciana's like, we only need what we need. Do not grab all that goody-goody stuff, right? And so they leave the supermarket with a full shopping cart, right? And as they're walking away, one of the gangsters just comes out of nowhere and charges and tackles Nick to the ground, right? And apparently, there's a pastry stuffed in Nick's pants. So apparently while they're, filling up the shopping cart and, Luciana's all telling Nick, we only need what we need. Don't put goodies in there. Nick manages to steal one and put it in his freaking pants. They find out, and Marco comes over after Nick with a machete, ready to chop off Nick's hand. The only time I've ever seen something like this is that, ironically enough, in a Disney movie. Disney, do not X me out for this. I'm just making an example. Do you remember in, like, Aladdin? When, Princess Jasmine goes out and for the first time she sneaks out of the palace and she's wandering around the shopping grounds and she sees this poor little kid who's trying to reach for, like, I think a fruit. Obviously this kid's like a little poor kid reaching out for a fruit and everything. And, she doesn't know any better, so she grabs the fruit for him and gives it to the kid and tells the kid to run off, but turns out, stealing is a crime there. And so it's like, you stole that fruit, so we chop off your hand. That's the punishment for stealing food, right? It's kind of like that, He stole a pastry, and now Marco's coming after Nick with a machete ready to chop off his hand because he stole a pastry. It's kind of like that Aladdin scene. You stole food, here's the punishment, right? That's what it reminded me of, ironically enough. Disney, do not X me for this. I'm just making an example, okay? It's not like I'm literally recording the Aladdin movie right here on my phone. It's not like I'm recording the actual movie. It's not like you hear the Aladdin movie going off. But I will go silent. Do you hear it? All you hear is silence and weird noises coming from my house. There is no movie playing in the background, so do not X me again like you did with Once Upon a Time, you jerks. Anyway. Apparently, I saw this part, through Luciana's translation. Nick manages to stop them from chopping his hand, and he's all like, Luciana, help me translate to these guys. And so, like, Nick's telling Luciana what to say to them, and it's pretty much saying, we're going to threaten to stop supplying you with the oxy and all the other medications for your junkies, especially your dear sister, Marco, if you don't let him go. See, this is what I said in the previous video. When Nick saw the group of junkies just camping out there in the supermarket and noticed that Marco is actually related to one of them, right? Or at least Marco's close to one of them. I'm not sure if he actually knew they were related. But I guess he does now, because he's like, if you do not let me go, we will stop supplying you with drugs to help with your junkies, including your dear sister, Marco. And it's like, burn! Nick! Doing that sweet thinking right there. Using that to pretty much, what's the word for it? Gosh, I forgot the word for it. It'll come back to me eventually, but he used his junkie sister to help himself, which is pretty freaking cool. And not only did he say, we're gonna stop supplying oxy and the rest of the medication to the junkies, including your sister, if you don't let me go, he also used it to his advantage to not only let himself, not get his hand chopped off and let him go, he manages to demand a second shopping cart out of that. And Marco, unfortunately, begrudgingly agrees to it because, of course, if he doesn't agree to the terms, letting him go and giving that second shopping cart, they're not going to give the medications anymore, which will not help his sister, right? So he's like, dang it, and all that stuff, right? And while Nick and Luciana wheel the 2 carts of supplies back to Colonia, Luciana worries that the gang will follow them back because of the little threat that Nick pulled off, the little stunt he pulled off, right? And she pretty much yells at Nick. It's like, well, that is a good plan, saved him, got him out of there, saved his hand, and got them the second shopping cart full of supplies. It's a double-edged sword. They got what they wanted, but at the same time, you don't threaten people, especially a gang. And I don't blame Luciana for kind of being worried that the gang will retaliate because of that little threat and follow them in order to get the drugs themselves. You know what I mean? Because that will happen. I'm not sure if we actually seen that in the first 6 seasons of the other Walking Dead show, the predecessor one, but it could possibly happen. You threaten the gang, we're not going to give you supplies anymore if you don't give us what we want, right? I wouldn't be surprised if they do follow them, mainly to be like, you know what, they're not going to give us the drugs. They're not going to give it. They threaten us to not give us our drugs. Then fine, we'll follow them and take all the drugs for ourselves, so we don't have to depend on them ever again, and they will never have to get our supplies anymore, right? So I don't blame Luciana for being worried. Hang on. I'm sorry about that. They're showing something really cute on that TV, and I really want to see it because it had something to do with a dog, and I love dogs. But anyway, I don't blame Luciana for being very worried that the gang will come back. Like I said, I'm not even gonna repeat it, but I'm not blaming Luciana for worrying about this, and I'm not even tripping that she yelled at Nick for upsetting the gangsters, because, like I said, they could just follow Luciana and Nick back to the Colonia, and just take all the drugs for themselves, which pretty much puts their colony in danger, like injury and wounds and all that. They can't treat it because they took all the drugs, and they're like, we took all your drugs, now you have nothing to bribe us with to get our supplies, right? Anyway, back with Madison's group, Madison and Strand, they're getting drunk at the bar, opening up to each other, which is kind of interesting because, they had kind of a hectic kind of relationship going on there. They were, especially Madison was not trusting Strand, especially when he lied about the whole going to, was it San Diego, right? Was it San Diego? If I remember correctly, Strand said they were going to San Diego, but in all honesty, he was secretly going to Mexico or something like that. And Madison already didn't trust him from there, but to see him actually open up to each other, see them opening up to each other like this, I know they're drunk, and there is a thing when people get drunk, they tend to be a little too honest with each other and all that stuff. I mean, my family, we're a selective, fun-loving group of drunks. We got happy drunks. We got the I love you drunk. My dad is an I love you drunk. Because when he drunk, it doesn't matter if he's fighting with somebody, he'd be like, I love you, man. And he's all crying, right? And it's like that moment. When you get drunk, you're a certain type of drunk. And apparently Madison and Strand, when they're drunk, they are the open up the feels kind of drunk. You know what I mean? They open up to each other when they're drunk, apparently. And Madison tells Strand about the death of Nick and Alicia's father. Remember, we brushed up on this in episode 8. I believe it was episode 8 when we had the flashback of when Madison visited Nick. And I believe that, I forgot what it was called, but, him and his girl Gloria were in a recovery thing, and, the parents all visiting those two. And I noticed that, Madison was wearing all black, and I'm like, did she attend a funeral or something like that? And it turns out that Madison was telling Nick in the previous episode in the flashback, the reason why your dad hasn't been visiting is because he was in a head-on collision and he died, right? So apparently Madison's all telling Strand about the death of the father, getting more into it. But what I wasn't expecting was that, she said he was driving home from work and his car drifted into oncoming traffic. And apparently that's how he died, right? And that's what I assumed. She's just going more into detail about it with Strand, right? And then Strand's all assuming that, their father, Madison's husband, fell asleep at the wheel. That's why he ended up in oncoming traffic. And that's what I thought too, I thought, he died because, car hit him or something. And when Madison was all like, his car drifted into oncoming traffic, I thought either he was sleepy as heck, and that's why it drifted, or he's on something slippery and his car drifted a little bit, right? But what I didn't expect was Madison said, despite what she told Nick and Alicia, their father actually killed himself by drifting into oncoming traffic. And I was like, whoa, that is some deep stuff right now. And I was like, for real? The dad actually killed himself by drifting his car into oncoming traffic? Is that legit? I don't know. But that I did not expect. And also the fact that Madison tells Strand, I'm worried that the same darkness that the dad had that made him kill himself was inside Nick. So it made me kind of, when she said that their father killed himself by drifting into oncoming traffic, it made me question if that was legit. But when Madison said she was worried that the same darkness in their father was in Nick, that made me kind of believe her story. Because if that whole him killing himself by drifting into oncoming traffic was not legit, she would not worry about the same darkness in the dad being in Nick. Just saying. But anyway, Madison starts flinging glasses against the wall and pouring more drinks, and then flings more glasses after she's done. And Strand's all banging on the piano and all that jazz. This is what happens with drunks. I'm guessing they are the open up the feels drunk, at the same time they are the crash and burn kind of drunks. Like, they open up their feelings to each other and then they just start wreaking havoc. And this is what's happening. They open up to each other, and then Madison's like drinking and crashing glass all over the walls, and then freaking Strand's all banging on pianos and all that stuff. Across the street, unfortunately for them, the glass hitting the wall, making all that sound, and the crashing of the piano, that apparently attracted some infected, a pretty decent herd of infected that are inside a gift shop that is across the street. Because apparently there's this gift shop across the street, and there's a good chunk of infected that are in the gift shop. They're all pounding on the door of the gift shop trying to get out because they're provoked by the sound that Madison and Strand are doing, right? And Alicia, she's all taking a shower and then looks for Ophelia, wondering where she went, right? And then, she goes to the balcony, and all of a sudden, a bunch of infected start walking onto the balconies, dropping to the ground and flocking toward the bar. So apparently there are some infected inside the hotel rooms. And because of all the noise that Strand and Madison are doing, apparently the bell was not enough to attract them, because they didn't do anything. But the moment the piano and the glass starts happening, right, they start coming out of the rooms trying to get as close to the sound as possible. And since they can't really get through the most likely closed doors of their rooms, I'm guessing that the doors to the hotel rooms that they're in are all closed. So they go to the next best thing, which is, of course, the windows, which they could probably break by going through, right? So they're going down, and they go down the balcony, they're falling off, and they're all starting to head toward the ground, flocking to the bar. And, she realizes, she hears the piano, which Strand is banging on, and she's like, oh my god, that's my mom and Strand, right? So she's all screaming for Madison and all that stuff, and Alicia's all running down the hallway, finds herself in the stairwell, and she sees that the stairwell is jam-packed with infected, and she can't escape to them, right? It's obviously the elevators are not working. They usually cut off the power when when natural disasters happen. They usually cut off the power to stuff. And so I'm going to be surprised if there's elevators there and they cut off the power. So, the only way down there is through the stairs, or infected way, just down balconies. But anyway, she can't get to Madison and Strand to warn them, right? So, we go back to Colonia with Nick and Luciana dropping supplies off at the pantry. Nick gives candy bar to the young girl whose father was sacrificed. And I thought that was a really cute moment, because we all saw that Nick was all there seeing when he first met the crying girl, trying to comfort her and stuff like that. And of course the dad was sacrificed. Of course the little girl's gotta cry, right? And while he gives the candy bar to help her, comfort her and stuff like that, Luciana ushers him inside the house to meet Alejandro. And Alejandro, he reprimands Nick for riling up the gangsters. Again, I don't blame them for getting mad at Nick for riling up those gangsters and pissing them off, you know what I mean? because it will backfire at one point. It could possibly backfire. They could follow them, you know what I mean? And so he goes to explain the importance of faith and saying only faith, and like, I understand I'm guessing they're religious people, and oh my god, I'm running out of time. I'll see you guys in the next video, okay? There's gonna be a part 3.2 or something like. But anyway, bye guys.